Okay, last night, the way the Holy Spirit sometimes does, He moved me to pray. And I prayed, Lord, please show me a dream, something that I can share with the world. This is the dream that I received. In the first scene, I see something I saw yesterday at a family-type barbecue, a social event. And our nephew was there, and he played outside a little bit with the other kids. But he spent a lot of the time laying on a couch and sitting on a chair with his head down, watching videos. And I kind of noticed that he did that. And in the dream, they're showing him do this. And then in the next scene, his family is visiting us to our home. And I begin to explain to his parents the importance of intestinal flora and energy. When you have a healthy gut biome, you have a lot more energy. And if your gut biome is sparse or not very diverse, then they're not producing molecules that your body needs to produce different organic molecules, functional devices inside your own body that then do the things you need and help your body run efficiently and produce energy and health, right? So a weak gut flora affects your overall health. So I'm explaining this to them, and I give him some yogurt, and I give him some fermented food, and I'm like, here, eat this, boy. Right? And I give him the stuff because I want to help him out. The next scene shows rashes of Candida albicans. Now, many years ago, my wife and I, we took a big course of antibiotics, too much, right? And, my wife was insisting that we were supposed to take this big course, and she was just afraid. So we took too many, and wow, we wiped out our intestinal flora, and we had red rashes all over our body. So we went to a couple doctors. They had no idea what was going on, these American doctors, just clueless. Then we go to the VA, and there's a Chinese doctor working for the VA, and he just takes one look at us, and he says, you have thrush. And I said, well, what's that? He said, it's Candida albicans. It's a bacteria. You need to replace your gut flora. And I mean, this guy knew it instantly just looking at us. We said, well, no one else could figure out what it was. He said, don't worry, this is what it is. And he gave us a prescription for some probiotics, right? So, and we got better. So now, here are some pictures of Candida rash. So this is attributed, this has been diagnosed. These people have Candida, right? They have a bacterial outgrowth in their intestine, and it's affecting their overall health, their blood system somehow, and it's manifesting as a skin rash. Skin pustules a little bit in some places, right? So this is what traditional thrush looks like. Now these, very similar, almost exact, right? It's like there's at least like 80, 85, 90% overlap in the spectrum of how this stuff appears. This is called a COVID rash. These have all been diagnosed as COVID. These pictures here, this next set. Wow, that looks just exactly like Candida, right? So the dream starts to show me how 5G is killing people's gut flora. So the radiation from 5G towers is killing some good bacteria in people's intestines, and they're basically getting thrush, and they're saying this is from COVID. That's what the dream is showing me. And then the next scene shows that there are some scientists, and they're saying, we think that radiation from 5G is in fact killing bacteria in people's intestines. So they start making some samples of bacteria, and then they're exposing them to different frequencies of radiation to see if this stuff is actually killing them. Well, actually, maybe what the dream was showing was the people who designed the system. I don't know. Could be either way. And then the dream starts reviewing how this was something I had studied long before they started saying that the COVID vaccine was the first ever mRNA vaccine. Long before this, I was doing studies about genetics and intestinal flora. I was reading different articles, and you find one article, it references another one. You go back and read that one. This is called like a deep dive in medical research. I found that they did a type of surgery where they said they believe that many different types of diseases, usually they're the less common types, are genetic deficiencies. So what they did is they said, well, let's figure out which gene makes this molecule that they're missing that's causing these symptoms that we call this particular disease. A lot of diseases are because the body has degraded over time with loss of genetics. What happens is you get this genetic deficiency, but a lot of times bacteria produce those same molecules and they pass through the intestinal wall and your body uses them. So you're just fine. It doesn't matter that your own body can't make it. What matters is that the bacteria produces it. So they figured out, they said, well, we think it's genetic. So they tried these mRNA splicing. Now, when they were saying this had never been done before, they were just blatantly lying to you because they tried it many times. And in all these studies, what the eventual conclusion was, we spliced in the genes, it produced the molecule, and it worked. almost immediately, usually 24 to 36 hours, the symptoms that were producing what we called this particular disease all went away. So when the body could get that molecule again through its own genetics, it solved the problem. But then what happened was 5-6 months later, not too long later, this person started to develop a series of other problems. Splicing the genes caused other medical problems, and they decided, well, this is worse than the original disease, so let's not do this anymore. They put a stop to it. And different people with a couple different diseases, they tried the same thing and it didn't work out. And now a different group of people, they said, what if we only need the molecule? And since a lot of molecules do come from intestinal flora bacteria, the good bacteria, as soon as that molecule starts reappearing, the body starts using it to make those molecules that it needed, right? So it's like the chassis of this molecule or something is being given by the bacteria, and then the body makes the proteins that we need, and those proteins do work, and that creates health. When the bacteria are weak, when the bacteria are not diverse, you get reduced health, okay? So this is the basic equation, right? Healthy gut flora equals superior health and longer life. That's what they said. People with diverse bacteria, they lived longer, and during that longer life, they had better health overall. So I said to myself, now I like to challenge things. Well, if that's true, what would that mean? And then I looked something up. And in this case, I said, if that was true, then people who travel, they eat different diverse types of foods. You might get some different umeboshi plums in Japan, or you might just have a slightly different culture when you drink kombucha in China or Taiwan versus the mainland Japan, right? So people who travel, they're going to have a much more diverse intestinal flora. So I looked, and sure enough, I found a story that showed that people who had traveled substantially in their life lived 4 to 5 years longer than people who did not travel. So there was something. So I like to find this, metric that I'm looking at myself, and then I prove that it's true, okay? So this idea, to me, is verified, right? If you have healthy intestinal flora, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more health, you're going to recover from injury and sickness faster and better, and you're going to have a longer life. So if you are someone who is into depopulation, you attack the intestinal flora, you attack all those things I just listed. The people you're trying to oppress, they want to fight back, they can't do it. You injure them, they recover slower. They're slower back to the battlefield. Or some greater percentage is going to perish because they won't make it through recovery. Then the dream reviewed in the dream showed how all living things have a natural frequency, and that by equaling or canceling that frequency, you can kill living things. This is something that I researched when I was doing my master's degree, my capstone project. I was doing natural frequencies of buildings and how to dampen frequencies through buildings. And by accident, and this, I don't believe this is published, but people complain when they have vibrations from certain things. And I found that those vibrations were usually around 5 to 6 hertz. And I found that the organs of the human being, the liver, the gallbladder, other organs, all have frequencies around 5 to 8 hertz. So you sync up with someone's organs and it makes them very uncomfortable. They don't like it and they start complaining. So this is what happens. You're syncing up to a natural living thing. And that's what they're doing. They're syncing up. So you send one frequency that's, say, starts at pi, and then you hit it with another frequency that starts at, using some arbitrary point that you're calling 0, at half pi, they'll cancel each other out. Those two wavelengths will cancel each other out. You can do this with a living thing. You can either sync up with its frequency and amplify it, thereby putting it out of its natural range and killing it, or you can cancel out its frequency. So it's totally possible to target a living thing. Okay, so then the dream reminded me of this other dream that I had months ago. And in that dream, people had been given nanotech, and then machines that could track nanotech using 5G towers suddenly one day turn on everyone, all right? And so people are living in the forest, machines are hunting men down to try and kill them, right? So these people in this forest, they're like, hey, we need to get rid of these 5G towers, or these towers, if we're ever going to fight back and recover land that we're losing to the machines. So they find one guy who didn't have enough nanotech in him to be detected by the towers. So he could approach the towers as long as no robots saw him. So he approached via a forest, and when he got close enough, he had a small rifle. It was either 22, maybe a 38, and he shoots through one of these white orbs that are at the top of these 5G towers. And in the dream, I see it makes a hole through the front, makes a hole out the back. And I think, okay, that's done. But then the camera zooms in, and I see the hole starts to self-repair. I think, what is that? That has to be like this nanotech they've been talking about. And I said, well, that'll take at least, a couple days or something. And the dream pushes back like, no, that's not it. Zooms in tighter. And in just mere moments, this thing completely heals and seals itself up. The hole is sealed and it looks new, right? So I had to look that up. I looked a bunch of this up. Oh, so then in that dream, the guy who had shot, the towers somehow are able to calculate where the bullet came from, maybe because of a trajectory path through two lines or the two holes that were made. And the hunting robots go out and form a circle behind where they figure the shot originated, and then they start closing in the circle, and they find the man, and the machines kill him. All right, so that's the end of that dream. Now let me show you some articles. Okay, self-healing. Lots of articles here about self-healing materials using nanotechnology. Like, this is already a thing that is started at some point. Now, I read some of these articles, and what they're saying are things like, well, if we get a scratch or a micro crack, then the nanotechnology can reseal those things. And let me tell you, having studied material science as an engineering major in college, yeah, that's a big deal. The big cracks always start with micro cracks. And the place where it's going to fail when the material is tested in an earthquake or a tornado or something, it's going to be a micro crack. That's where your steel beam is going to shear. That's where your bending flange is going to rupture. That's the problem, the micro crack. So if you have something where micro cracks can self-heal, you suddenly have so much more strength. And then if something gets tested in a major earthquake, you don't have to go and replace all of your seismic braces because they can self-heal themselves. Okay, so this is a really huge deal. It's amazing from a scientific perspective, but from what my dream is showing you is that it's going to be against humanity at some point. And here's another particular article, and it's from this company whose name I've seen came up a lot. Oh, no, I don't see it. Okay, so here is an article just talking about self-healing materials, right? The ability of healing damage inflicted on them. This process leads to the partial restoration of the original properties of these materials, in particular of the mechanical properties, shear and tensile strength, etc. Okay, so this is real stuff that's going on. So I've showed you all these different things. Everything I've just said, that everything that was shown in this dream, you can look it up, except intestinal flora. Eat lots of fermented foods, my friends. Lots of fermented foods, especially if you think that you have reduced energy or you feel fatigued sometimes when you shouldn't. It's not the way you used to have energy 10 years ago. Start eating lots of different fermented foods and watch how your energy returns, how your health returns, how you get less acne. It's going to be amazing. I promise you. This has been my experience. All right, my friends, this is the man from Modesto reminding you, as always, to pray or be defeated.